while everyone's getting their coffee, I'll just make a few announcements. First of all, my name is Leslie Gould. I'm the director of this awesome Chamber of Commerce, the Greater Beverly Chamber of Commerce. And I want to thank A&B Burger, Tom and his staff, and Kelly back there. Thank you so much for hosting us this morning. We really appreciate it. We're just trying to help a small business. That's why we're here. Hello, Becky. Good morning. And just want to make a couple of announcements. First, I want to also thank Donna for helping to organize all of this. I want to thank our candidates for attending this morning. They're doing the circuit, as you know, this week and next week. I want to thank Dave Olson, our awesome moderator. I want to make sure that's good. And I just want to make a couple of very, very quick announcements with some upcoming events for the Chamber. We are actually winding down. Woohoo! So excited. I know, right? I know. Robin knows me. Robin's like, it'll never happen. And actually, Donna knows that too. But we just finished up our auction last week and we're really excited. We are just about at the completion of our business directory, visitor guide, and map. And this is a new feature for the community. And I'm super excited to roll it out for all of you. It should be here in just 3 weeks or so. We've had more and more people calling the Chamber, visiting the Chamber, looking for maps, looking for things to do. People want brochures for their weddings. And I started thinking to myself, I have nothing to give them. So, hint, hint. Tourism is growing, and I know Main Streets is doing a lot. Beverly Main Streets is doing a lot as well to help foster that and encourage more tourism to our community because there's a lot to offer. We call it the wow between witches and whales. So you're going to be seeing that a lot. Yeah, that came out of my brain. So, couple of quick announcements very, very quickly. We are actually partnering with Sala Restabar for a wine dinner next Wednesday evening. It's a 4-course dinner. You will be fed very well. They will be pairing wines with those beautiful menu items. You can reserve your spot anytime between 4 and 9. It's a mini little fundraiser for the Chamber, but more than that, we wanted to partner with local restaurants to do these throughout the year. This is our first one that we're starting, just to kind of give a boost and to get more publicity for dining out. That's number one. Number two is we have our Brewing Business Annual Coffee Series next week. We're super excited because we're going to be, I need my glasses, because I don't want to get it wrong, Andrew, because I'm going to call it Briscoe Village, and I don't know if it's Beverly Village. See, I always want to call it Briscoe, and I apologize for that. But we're going to be at Beverly Village, thank you, Mayor, from 9 to 10 next Tuesday, the 21st. This is an awesome opportunity to actually go in and tour the facility if you haven't had a chance to. I don't think we'll be able to get into rooms, but there's so much to see. There's a common area. Everyone just come in and exit from the back. So come in and exit from the back. And that's free. And then the last thing I'm going to say, because I don't want to take up your time, because they're more important, is we are hosting our holiday party at Lighthouse Liquors, December 2nd from 5 o'clock on, just on. They're going to have tastings. We're going to have tons of food. It's going to be awesome. So we're obviously in the holiday season. So with the format and without further ado, again, thank all of you. And I'm going to send it over to David to start the event, and I will be your official timer as well.
Okay, can everybody hear me? Can everybody hear me? Yes? Yes? No? Here we go.
Oh.
I'm very quiet, very shy. All right. Thank you for being here. The format today is pretty straightforward. Each candidate is going to have 2 minutes for an opening statement. They'll get right to the questions. As they ask the questions, we'll go back and forth. We have 2 minutes to answer, and each will have 1 minute for rebuttal. We'll move through probably 6 or 7 questions, and then we'll take questions from the crowd, and then you'll each get 2 minutes for a closing statement. So with that, why don't we start opening statement from Mike Cahill.
Thank you, Dave. Thanks, Leslie and the Chamber. It's great to see you all. I don't know if this is a romantic setting. The lighting is so what it is. I hope you can see us on BevCam. But when I look around the room, I mean, this is a room full of people who have worked together to make this community a great place for quite some time. And so I've had the honor of being your mayor for 12 years. And maybe we just take a minute to think about where we are after 12 years. At any rate, Beverly is today one of the most desirable, most welcoming, and safest and strongest financially communities in this country to decide to make your life, to raise a family, to start a business, to grow a business. And I think we've gotten there together. It's been fantastic. When I came into office, the city was in really good shape, and we have Mayor Scanlon sitting here. Good work. At the same time, he had to be mayor through 2 recessions. So when I came in, there was a lot to do in terms of attacking some infrastructure projects, in terms of building our financial strength. We've increased our bond rating twice. We have been able to put aside reserves that have us in an incredibly strong place for whenever the next downturn in the economy comes. We've been able to invest over $100 million in our road, sidewalk, and intersection infrastructure to try to make everything safer, move better, and help really promote our whole community. And since we're sitting here at a chamber event, let's just think for a minute about our downtown. We've invested a lot of money in improving the infrastructure downtown. And along the way, we've had to work really hard to get that work done while businesses could still thrive. When we went through COVID, we were able to immediately put ARPA funds in the hands of business owners, in the hands of nonprofit organizations, so that you could keep doing what you need to do to serve our community. And so, is that time? Okay, thanks.
Brendan Sweeney.
Thank you, Dave. And I'd first like to start by thanking the Chamber, thanking Tom and A&B for hosting us, and thanking BevCam for recording, as well as thanking every one of you for taking the time to come out today and to learn more about the candidates. My name is Brendan Sweeney. I'm an at-large city councilor, and I'm running for mayor of Beverly. And in addition to my passion for local government and the impact that you can have on your neighbors, your friends, and your family, there are 3 main reasons why I'm running for mayor. First is that I have the experience to do the job. I've been a city councilor since 2021, but that's a part-time job. In my full-time job, I work as the assistant town administrator and finance director for the town of Oxford, where I build the town's budget, I negotiate with unions, and I manage our large projects. Prior to that, I worked in Governor Baker's administration, managing a $500 million COVID relief fund that supported every one of the Commonwealth's 351 cities and towns. The second reason I'm running is that I believe it's time for a change. Now, I've served with Mayor Cahill, and I respect his service to Beverly, but I see areas where the current administration is coming up short. If I'm elected mayor, I will be responsive, I will be transparent, I will be forward-thinking and make sure that we plan for the future, and I will engage directly with our union employees. The third reason that I'm running is that my wife and I are invested in Beverly. Beverly is where we'll be raising our family, and I want to make sure that it remains a welcoming and inclusive community. Now, I see what's going on at the national level with all of the uncertainty, and I was always taught to make sure that we treat everybody with dignity and respect. And I think it's especially important that we uphold our neighbors and that we carry those values out into daily life. And if I'm elected mayor, I will do just that. Now, if elected mayor, I have 5 key priorities that I'm calling my blueprint for Beverly. Number 1 is transparent and responsive government. Number 2 is investing in our roads and sidewalks. Is that the time already? All right, well, I'll just wrap it up with this. I humbly ask for your vote on November 4th. And if elected, I will be action-oriented, accessible, and accountable to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we're going right into the questions. We'll start with you, Brendan. What key elements do you think are missing from our downtown, and how would you work to support adding those resources?
I think I should start by saying we have many things downtown that make downtown Beverly very desirable. And that's due in large part to the work of folks like the Chamber of Commerce, folks like Main Street, but then the individual businesses that make up our restaurants, our coffee shops. Obviously, having the Cabot Theater and the many other theaters downtown is a very unique asset. The one thing that I see missing is a hotel. And I think I know, Leslie, you and I have had that conversation. I think there are opportunities to add what would then be something we don't have now, but also, if we are able to successfully bring a hotel into downtown, a source of revenue beyond just property taxes from meals tax and from rooms tax. Those are two avenues in what is otherwise fairly limited by how the state allows municipalities to raise revenue that could help in bolstering some of the financial, or bolstering our revenues in the face of some of the financial challenges that we're looking at. And so what I think we need to do is make sure that we as a city are proactively engaging with folks who would be interested in bringing a hotel to downtown Beverly. Obviously, we have the Cabot Lodge, which provides a great service, but how do we build upon the total capacity? And I think we're in a unique position. I know there was a lot of conversation at the meeting recently with regards to the future of the Family Dollar store. Is that a potential option where a hotel could take place? If not there is obviously the entirety of the Bass River. I think what we need to do as a city is make sure that we are engaging the public and the residents in a much more forthcoming manner than was the case initially when talking about the future of the Bass River, if that area is to be rezoned. And obviously the state of the bridge is a real wrench that was thrown into that. But I really think there are opportunities in this city to bring a hotel to downtown Beverly, and that could be a piece to really build upon the assets we have here. And I believe that that would help both from bringing revenue into the city, but bringing business to our small business owners.
Mike.
Repeat the question, please.
Sure. What elements do you think are missing from our downtown, and how would you work to support adding those resources?
Thanks. Well, obviously, there's a lot in our downtown that's going on and going well. I would say we've worked incredibly hard together for 12 years to try to ensure that we have sufficient housing in our community. We've made real progress on that. One of the challenges that I know a lot of you face, and you talk with me about it, is your employees being able to live in Beverly, nearby to work. And so, as we look at the Family Dollar store building right next door, which you all know, the city bought to save the 108 parking spaces that were going to be lost if it were developed into housing in the way it was proposed. Now, we've had a public conversation begin, which we'll be following up with soon, to just exactly what's needed there. That was one of the best meetings I've ever been part of. If you were there, if you watched it, there were lots of great ideas brought forward. And I would have to say, every single thing that was mentioned should have a place in our downtown. Can't all be done in one building, but really kind of highlighted a lot of what's needed. And some of the things that were mentioned, yes, a hotel. I mean, we've wanted a hotel here for a long time. Getting somebody to make that investment has been the challenge. So I think that's something that we all need to continue to work at together. A grocery market. And we've been lacking that in the downtown for quite some time. And then artists, art galleries, artist workspace, meeting spaces, all those were things that were brought up during that meeting. And they all have a place. So it's exciting that has really kind of been brought forward. And I know that, there's been a lot of conversation, a lot of surveying done, a lot of information shared. And one thing I have to say, since you both mentioned it, the fact that we have a chamber and a Main Streets organization who are both so in sync and working together in our downtown and are so complementary is just huge for our community. So what else does our downtown need? We definitely...
We're at time? Yeah, we'll give you a minute.
Oh, okay.
You have a minute to add.
Thanks, Dave. I agree. I think if we could bring a grocery store downtown, that would be great. I know from what I have heard that the economics of doing so are very challenging. I don't think that we should let that stop us from continuing the push as a city to see if there is a viable grocery store that can be brought into downtown. But obviously, that's a challenge we need to keep in mind. On the housing piece, I do think it's incredibly important that we are continuing to work to diversify Beverly's housing stock with the ultimate goal of affordability without really changing the character or the fabric of the city. I know that there has been a lot of housing built downtown. I think much of it has been a positive. And so what I see is the area of our housing stock that is missing is workforce housing, or the missing middle housing that may not necessarily be strictly deeded affordable, but is more naturally affordable than some of the luxury units that have been built or some of the single family homes that are now increasingly out of reach for young families like my wife and I. And so I think our options there should be to look at small multifamily housing, and it doesn't necessarily need to be downtown. Thank you.
Mike.
So on the housing piece, we have done a lot. We've been able to collectively see more individual, independent and supported housing right there at the YMCA. We've got an incredible family neighborhood now at Anchor Point, right uphill from the high school. Beverly Village for Living in the Arts was an incredible success of this community together in preserving a 100-year-old school, in preserving the theater inside it, and in providing forever affordable homes for seniors. 70% of which are for local. We had a local option that the state, allowed us to put on it. So a lot of Beverly people finding homes. Same thing at Anchor Point. A lot of Beverly people finding homes. Right here, maybe the best opportunity here at the Dollar Store building is for the type of home ownership opportunity for working people who can't break into the housing market without some type of help. And if we're able to do that at that building and preserve the parking that we need to make sure our downtown thrives, then we'll have been able to take care of some percent of the need for workforce housing for your employees and people trying to make a life in this community.
Thanks. Okay, second question. As we come up to the 2-minute warning, both feel free to finish your thoughts, as long as it's not another 2 minutes. We start with Mike. Currently, Beverly has a residential and commercial tax classification that taxes commercial and industrial taxes at a higher rate. How would you balance the need for homeowner affordability with the needs to attract commercial investment? And what, if any, specific adjustments would you propose?
Thanks. So what Dave's referring to is the fact that, and those of you who own businesses know this, 1.75 is the legal statutory limit at which commercial properties can be taxed with relation to residential properties. And this city is at that shift limit, that commercial limit, 1.75. The challenge for all of us is that the state of Massachusetts does not support cities and towns in the way that we need to meet the obligations we have to deliver local services. It's a big challenge. I've been talking about it for years. I've been working with legislative leadership with the governor's office, and now Mass Municipal just put out a report that highlights that, yes, we as a state rank very poorly compared to other states in terms of supporting cities and towns. So we're left needing to deliver all the critical services that we all rely on: public safety, health, senior, veterans, libraries, parks, schools, all with essentially mostly local dollars. So the ability to do differently with that shift, we don't really have that right now. We are working. I think that there's a growing movement for the state to do better, even as everybody's facing tough budgets. But one of the critical responsibilities that our state has is to support cities and towns, because that's where we all live. So I think in a perfect world, we could drop that from 175 to something lower. And I know that a lot of people in Beverly own a home and own a business. So, it's a challenging issue that it's one we should continue to talk about. But for right now, that's where we are, taxing the commercial properties at that 1.75 level.
Brendan.
So the state absolutely needs to do more to support municipalities and the core services that we provide: public safety, public works, paving our roads and sidewalks, and then of course the schools. And we really need the state to step up with targeted increases in Chapter 70 aid, and even more importantly, targeted increases to fund special education services. I'm on the board of the Massachusetts Municipal Association. I work directly on that report that the mayor referenced, and I will continue, if elected mayor, to be an advocate for cities and towns at the state level with our state officials. That being said, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't look locally at how we can control spending and make sure that we are setting our city budget up on a sustainable course when predicting revenues and trying to match those up to the spending required to provide core services. Right now, with the shift in the tax rate that we have, which is the maximum amount of burden that we can put on commercial homeowners under, or commercial owners under state law, we, as a result, have the 4th highest commercial tax rate in Essex County. What that tells me is that we need to look at controlling spending. I'll talk a little bit further about it in a future question because I know we're at time, but I think in looking at the increase in staff, particularly in the mayor's office, that concerns me that we're adding people when maybe we could be serving these core functions with a reduced workforce and with folks in essential roles. Thank you.
Mike, you have a minute?
You know, if we were to drop the commercial rate, it's the residential homeowners who would be paying the difference. Because it doesn't, it doesn't go away. The need to raise that funding doesn't go away. As mayor, I've watched state aid to Beverly decrease in real dollars to the extent that in 2003, the state provided enough money to cover 22% of Beverly's operating budget. Today, they only provide about 14%. It means that we all as property owners are paying all the money that the state isn't to deliver our services. And still, we've been able to increase our firefighters by 8. Mayor Scanlon got a grant for four new firefighters, and then I got a grant. And we were able, because of that, to buy a new ladder truck, the first one in a generation, and put a 4th truck on the street every single day in our fire department. We're able to increase our traffic presence in the police department from 1 traffic officer to 3. Been able to, with grant funding, because that's another important piece of this, because the money doesn't come from the state, we have to be nimble, we have to be aggressive. And we've secured over $90 million in grant funding, including to staff a mental health worker and a domestic violence worker who are embedded with our police department, working every day to help intervene in crisis situations and help our community.
Thank you. Brendan.
The mayor's right about the need to continue to build off of the increases in public safety staffing and in our essential service positions. The folks that, whether it's teachers, paraprofessionals, police officers, firefighters, are the ones on the ground providing services. While I agree about the need to continue to advocate for increased state aid, we also need to make sure that our financial house is in order locally. Right now, the mayor has over 16 direct reports. And in mentioning staff added since Mayor Scanlon's tenure, what was a 2-person executive office is now an 8-person executive office. That tells me that we're not an efficient organization. And I think we need to have an important conversation about which services we're providing that are essential, which functions that we want to maintain. But after having that conversation, we do need to look at being a much more efficient organization, cutting down the number of direct reports, combining departments with cross-functionalities, implementing new technologies, and finding ways to continue to provide the core services that Beverly's families rely upon, but doing so in a much more efficient manner, because in the absence of the state really heeding the call from municipal leaders about the need for increased investment, there's nowhere else for us to go. And we will have to make sure that we are balancing our budget locally. Thank you.
Okay.
Just a quick correction, if I could. I have 11 direct report department heads. There are 24 departments in total. It means the other 13 report to some of those direct reports, just for accuracy.
The organization chart of the city would say otherwise.
All right. We start with Brendan, this question. What do you view as the mayor's role in creating a well-educated workforce, and how will you carry out that vision?
I think the mayor's role is really that of a convener when it comes to how do we foster a well-educated workforce. And as a city, we are in an incredibly unique and beneficial position in that we have 2 strong local colleges, Endicott College and the Montserrat College of Art, as well as nearby Gordon College and Salem State. So we have lots of opportunity for folks who are leaving college, who are entering the workforce. And that's where I see the mayor's role really is that of a convener. The state, through the Executive Office of Labor and Workforce Development, has made a commitment to investing in our future workforce. We have, in addition to those colleges, we have a local tech school, Essex Tech, that is training the next generation of folks with skills who can step into the workforce right away. And so I see the mayor's role as one who needs to find how best to leverage those state resources, needs to make connections with our local institution, and then use those connections in partnership with organizations like the Greater Beverly Chamber of Commerce, Beverly Main Streets, to connect those resources and the next generation workforce with the opportunities here in our community. And I know that as business owners, each and every one of you are looking for folks who can step in and who can really help your organization right away, who you can rely upon to be long-term employees. And I think those students are looking for opportunities. And so that's where I see the mayor and city government really as a convener. How do we connect those students looking for opportunities with our small businesses?
Mike?
Thanks. So a well-educated workforce, really first it's you need to be telling us what you need in employees, and you are. And we need to be working with our legislative delegation and with state leadership. And I think a lot of the right things are happening at the state level in terms of the jobs that are identified as being here now and employers needing more, and the jobs that are coming in the different industries that are really growth industries. As mayor, we sit on the school committee, or I sit on the school committee, ensuring that our students in Beverly are as well educated as they can be, and ensuring that opportunities, particularly at the high school level, at Essex Tech and at Beverly High School, help to further prepare those students, because many of them will go right into the workforce after high school. Many obviously go on to higher ed, but trying to make sure that all the right programs are in place. Now, we have started a program with Salem High School because Essex Tech, although they provide a lot of great programs, gets to capacity. So we recognized an unmet need and are partnering with Salem High School on some of our voc tech needs of our Beverly High School students.
Thank you. Brendan, you have another minute?
Just to focus on the vocational tech piece, I know I had talked mostly about local colleges, but we really do have a unique opportunity with a regional vocational tech school, but also while the state really has constricted our ability locally to build out vocational tech programs here at Beverly High School, I think that is incredibly important. We need to make sure that students are aware of the After Dark program that allow them to take certain vocational tech classes, even if they're not fully enrolled at a school like Essex Tech. And we need to make sure that as much as the state will allow us to, locally in our school district, we are building out those practical vocational tech programs, because for many students, given the price of college, it's not a realistic opportunity for them. And I think with the unique needs of our workforce continually changing, that college degree is no longer a bar to entry. And we should embrace that locally in making sure that we are working with our school leaders to provide the programs required so that those students who are not going to college can still immediately step up and fill critical gaps in our workforce. Thank you.
Thank you. 1 minute, Mike?
So the importance of our own local educational system, obviously we know we went through a hard time last year with the teacher strike. The reality is that we have invested over $37 million in new money in our schools over 12 years. That's a 77% increase in our school budget. And I've been in our schools on a regular basis for 12 years. I'm in the buildings, I'm working with educators, understanding what they're doing, seeing the kids in action. I also, when I first was elected mayor, I started a summer learning program, recognizing that learning how to read is the most critical single foundational piece to give a child a chance at a strong education, at a better life. And we just ran for the 11th straight summer, our summer learning program, helping our youngest learners learn to read, prevent summer learning loss, catch up on where they were from the end of the school year, and get back to school in September ready to fly. And it's been an incredibly valuable program that leads to what we're talking about in terms of a well-educated workforce.
Thank you. Okay, our next question. We start with you, Mike. What unnecessary red tape would you work to remove to make Beverly more business friendly?
Well, we've been working at that for 12 years. As some of you know, one of the first things we did was we instituted a project review team option, and anybody that wants to invest in Beverly and try to make Beverly a better community, they can come meet with all the department heads that would have a role in a given project working through the permitting. We also have engaged in a streamlined permitting effort over the last several years. And in fact, I think our online capabilities are much better than they used to be. So I think that's helpful, and be real interested and eager to hear people's experience. But so far, we're hearing a lot of positives. We also created an asset management system of all city assets, and that includes our 160 miles of road and our many, many miles of sidewalk and all the different infrastructure below the street that services us all. The other thing I want to say is to be business friendly is to be people friendly. And, right now, we've worked incredibly hard and our housing opportunities are better. And yet it's still incredibly challenging for people to stay in Beverly if it's where they've begun, or come to Beverly for a job, or because they want to live in this amazing community. Transportation is a big challenge. I worked on the rail visioning program for Governor Baker, which, really showed the pathway to taking our commuter rail system and making it a true regional rail system, because the economic competitiveness, not just of Beverly, but of our whole region, is really in the balance. At the local level, we tried a last mile shuttle. It held promise, and then COVID hit. So we have to kind of reboot that and go back to how people get from public transit to work, to doctor's appointments, to school. So it can be very micro here right at the local level, and it has to be also regional. The other piece, and I'll probably, how much time do I have left here? Okay, I'll get to it in my next minute. Thanks.
So I think there's the technical answer to the question, which is really making sure that we are streamlining the permitting process through the implementation of new technologies and building off of that, because ensuring that all of City Hall is utilizing a system that communicates between departments is incredibly important to making sure that permits are processed in a timely manner. I also think this goes back to the answer I gave about the need to be more efficient. We should look to see, in trying to restructure the organization of City Hall, whether there's a way to bring the inspections department, the health department, and the folks in the community development department together to make sure that they are working in tandem with each other, so that businesses aren't being ping-ponged across different departments within City Hall when trying to get the necessary permits that they need. The second piece of this is less technical and goes more toward the importance of making sure that City Hall is accessible and responsive. And if I'm elected mayor, I will make sure that for each of you and for any prospective business owner in Beverly, that they know that they can walk into City Hall, that they can get a meeting with me, and that the conversation will immediately start with, what can we do to help you? Convene our departments, relevant departments. I'll make sure to do that. And I believe that both the technical efforts and that really can-do attitude from City Hall will make the difference in helping new and existing businesses thrive.
Thank you. Mike.
So I said that to be business friendly and to be effective at promoting business is to be people friendly. I touched on housing, education, transportation. One of the biggest challenges in this country right now is that a lot of the people that you know and I know and we love and we care about and we rely on are in fear. LGBT communities in fear. If you're LGBT or love someone who is, if you are an immigrant or love someone who is, if you are a person of color or love someone who is, you feel good about living in Beverly, but you're concerned and you're fearful for what's going on in this country. Everyone in this room knows that this country was built, this community was built, this community currently relies on all of our residents. And everyone in this community has the right to have the same rights as everyone else in this community. That's something that I've championed, I've fought for. It's in the balance right now, not so much here in Beverly right today, but it's in the balance in this country. And everyone in this community needs to know that this community is the welcoming place and this community values, because you all employ people who are fearful right now. We all have people in our lives who are fearful. And so for us to be strong at every level and every way in this community, we need to stand together and stand for and champion everyone.
Brendan.
It is incredibly important that we as a city make sure it is clear to residents, to business owners, to employees, that we are a welcoming and inclusive community and that we are committed to living out those values. On the immigrant piece especially, I think it's very important that city leaders make clear that we are going to stand up for residents, no matter their race, no matter their nation of origin, and then for other marginalized communities, that we are going to make sure to provide the same opportunities and to make sure that we are not discriminating against anybody because of their gender or because of their sexual orientation. On the business side of things, I think City Hall can lead by example in making sure that it is implementing and carrying out anti-discrimination policies. At the local level, I think it's incredibly important that we as city leaders partner with our schools in combating bullying and making sure that every student, no matter their immigration status, no matter their race, their gender, or their sexual orientation, that they feel welcomed in the schools. And I believe that by leading by example on the city side, that we can make sure to carry that commitment we have to treating each and every one of our neighbors with dignity and respect to the business community and beyond in Beverly. And I'm committed to doing that if I'm elected mayor. Thank you.
Okay, this next question, we start with you, Brendan. Communication is key, and while it has improved recently, many feel we have a way to go. How would you improve and/or change communication to the business and citizens?
So I completely agree that communication is key, and I think about it twofold. The first part is making sure that city leaders, and particularly the mayor, that they are responsive, and that if a business leader or a resident calls or emails the mayor's office, or if they try to schedule a meeting, that they know they will get a call back, that they will get an email back, or that the mayor will try to either connect with them directly or make sure that they are able to meet with the department head that they need to connect with. That's not happening right now. And if I'm elected mayor, I will make sure to respond to every call or email, and I will make sure to facilitate those meetings or meet with you myself, because I am committed to making the city government responsive and accessible. Then there is kind of the community-wide higher level of communication. And while I understand that there is a role for robocalls, I don't see that as being a reasonable tool to depend upon for the entirety of our city's communications. Frequent robocalls don't get the key messages across about what important projects are taking place in the city and what important developments may be going in, things that business owners and residents really need to know about. And I think we have a unique opportunity to leverage social media in a better way. I think we can produce videos. I've been producing short videos myself on the campaign about key issues. I think Beverly Main Streets has done an excellent job engaging their social media team. That's something that the city could follow, to put short videos out about key projects and cut across generational divides in terms of gaps about information. I also think with our partners at BevCam, there's a unique opportunity to leverage their podcast studio for more in-depth conversations. A sit down with the DPS commissioner, a sit down with the police chief or the school superintendent to talk over a half-hour period in much more detail about some of the important initiatives taking place at the schools or the police department, some of the key projects upcoming. Those are real opportunities to both have quick hits of communication and information with social media, and then have a more in-depth conversation with a medium like podcasts. I believe we really need to go beyond just the surface level of communication that come from robocalls. Thank you.
Mike.
Thanks. Listen, we've been working every day for 12 years to communicate with and listen to and learn from and help people, and we do it every day. I would say that the Economic and Community Development Council, when it comes to our local business community, is one of the most important forums. We have, some of you in this room are serving on the council, and certainly Main Streets and the Chamber are both represented. And so that's an important forum where we meet very regularly, and we solicit and hear and are working forward together, both to try to address challenges in the moment. And we're working right now towards writing an economic development action plan to really move our city forward on all fronts economically. It's critically important. I will say one thing. In the 12 years I've been mayor, we've been able to facilitate with our city policies, with our master plan, with the support and partnership of the city council and of all of you, we've been able to promote and facilitate the kind of investment that's kept our city moving forward.
Brent.
I've been fortunate enough to be the city council's liaison to the Economic and Community Development Committee. That's been a great opportunity for me to hear from many of you, either in this room or other local small business owners, about the challenges that you're facing. I think it's great that the city is implementing an economic development action plan, but what's key is not necessarily the production of the plan, but what the city does with that plan. And as mayor, I am committed to working very closely, not only with the formal representation on the Economic and Community Development Committee, but with every small business owner in this city to make sure that we are implementing that plan to the fullest extent. We have a very unique opportunity here in Beverly because we've had such great progress downtown, but that progress isn't going to be maintained on autopilot. And so as a mayor, I will be committed to working with each and every small business owner to make sure that we continue the growth of our small business community and that we really are a key partner for you all as you continue to provide important services to the residents of Beverly. Thank you.
Mike.
I'm mean, obviously, one of us is going to be elected in a couple of weeks. So, and I'm sure Brendan feels the same way. I want to make sure that these kind of conversations are all the time, right? Because we do need to hear. And that's why I say the ECDC is an opportunity because everybody's represented in that setting. At the same time, when I try to be in the community every day, I try to be connected with and participating in Chamber and Main Street's events. So I do see and talk with a lot of you on a regular basis. We also have an economic development function in our planning department. Our economic development planner, Aaron Shaver, does great work in connecting and getting out and working with small business by small business to try to make sure that people have what they need. This is a really challenging time for particularly the small business community. Everybody who owns a business is working incredibly hard, and we're trying to make sure that nothing gets in the way of people both getting through and getting back to where they can thrive at conducting, building their business in this community. Thanks.
Okay, one more question from me, and then we'll get the questions from the audience. What steps can the mayor's office take to address the growing concerns around housing affordability in Beverly, especially as it relates to workforce housing? And we start with you, Mike.
So we have, and I see Representative Bowen there, and she was a real champion of our accessory dwelling unit ordinance. Well, so is Councilor Hausman. I don't want to leave, he's here too. And Councilor Flowers, my gosh, and Councilor Sweeney. We passed together an accessory dwelling unit ordinance that isn't going to create thousands of houses, but it is going to create some number of houses with, apartments within a house, a standalone building on somebody's property, that just by their nature, they're only 900, 1,000 square feet, are going to be kind of market rate affordable. Trying to build our way through this with subsidized housing is challenging because it all relies on low-income housing tax credits that come from the federal government. And Andrew's here with Harbor Light Homes, and we work together as partners on a number of projects. And so I do see, again, that building next door is an opportunity for home ownership for people who are making under 80% of area median income. And it's so challenging if you are working hard and bringing home money and trying to put some aside and meet the cost of living and get ready to try to buy a home. So the subsidized opportunities, as hard as they are to come by, we've got to chase those and try to help ensure that more people have home ownership opportunities and rental. But the home ownership allows people to build the equity that can allow them to from their next step buy in the open market. So it is an incredible challenge together with housing, because in order for the housing to be built in the quantity that we need it regionally, we need our transportation system to improve. That goes back to the modernization of our rail. Governor Healy, Lieutenant Governor Driscoll are currently electrifying the Fairmont line out of South Station. The Newburyport-Rockport line is next on the priority list, and we're trying to make sure it stays there so that in the coming years we can see the electrification of this line, which will give us 15-minute frequency all day long at the Beverly Depot in and out of Boston. And that will itself help support more housing as well.
Brendan.
Well, I think city government definitely has a role in making sure that we are creating the environment necessary for housing growth that meets the gaps in our current housing market. I also want to make sure that city government is not too heavy-handed. This was a concern that I had as a city councilor when the council ultimately voted to adopt the specialized stretch energy code. I voted against it. And while I think the intention of trying to make buildings more green and energy efficient is a good thing, we added a standard, I believe, that compromised the ability for us as a city to bring in more affordable housing. And so I think it's always important that we keep that balancing act in mind. When it comes to a balancing act of our housing market, one area that I really see missing, which I alluded to earlier in this conversation, is workforce housing. And I believe those smaller multifamily units, which if developed in a way that are more naturally affordable, even without being necessarily deed restricted affordable, would provide a big missing piece to our housing market, where we have as a city done a good job bringing in more affordable housing. We have obviously the higher end single family homes, and we have expensive luxury apartment units. And I think it really is going to take an intentional effort through zoning. What opportunities do we have to foster the development of those smaller multifamily unit with targeted zoning that wouldn't compromise the character of a neighborhood. I'll be working with our community partners to identify those opportunities.
Mike.
Thanks. I think, one of the things that we really need to find a way to do is to build more housing specifically for people who are ready to downsize from the house they raised their family in. So more senior housing that is in this community, that people don't have to go to Brooksby and Peabody to find a place to live their senior years. So that's a challenge that we have before us, and one that I want to tackle in the next term, because that's a way to allow for first-time home buyers to have a better chance to break in, is to give our seniors an opportunity to downsize without having to leave the community they love and want to remain in. So challenging, and as Councilor Sweeney said, trying to get that housing built. I'll say this: developers aren't building starter homes, and that's just a function of the economy and the financing of what they do. So that's why I think if we can do something meaningful in providing more housing opportunities right here in Beverly for seniors, we will naturally open up more housing for younger people trying to break in. Thanks.
Brendan.
I think adding more senior housing is a great approach. And the key point of why that the mayor mentioned is the need to allow opportunities for residents who want to downsize in Beverly. There's been a lot of talk about the benefit for residents who want to downsize to move to one of the apartments on Rantoul. And while I think some residents have taken that opportunity, many that I've talked to when door knocking don't want to live in that type of apartment. I think it serves a key part of our market, but there are still residents in Beverly looking to downsize who feel that those opportunities are not there. Specifically, senior housing would certainly be a way to address that. But then again, I continue to go back to the biggest gap in our housing market are those smaller multifamily units. So I think that could, again, be a solution to help seniors who want to stay in Beverly downsize and open up single family homes for young families like my wife and I, who are having kids, want to stay in Beverly, but are really struggling to break into the housing market because of the barrier of how high of a cost it is to buy a single family home in Beverly.
Thank you. So Leslie, do you want to hand out the mic for?
Phil Donahue, for those of you who remember Phil, or your Oprah. Go ahead. You want to?
Does anybody?
I'm going to go this way. Who has a question? Does anyone have a question?
Thank you, Leslie. We are well and truly experiencing a climate crisis. I would like you to please review your experience in the field of climate mitigation and tell us what you see as role as a chief executive of the city in the coming climate catastrophe that's bearing down on us now. Thank you.
We start with Brendan.
Okay, thanks, Dave, and thank you for that question, Wayne. So one of the fun things about working in a small town is that you get to wear many hats. And so in my work for the town of Boxford as the assistant town administrator and finance director, I've taken the lead in working with our sustainability committee on some key initiatives. One of those key initiatives was we implemented a municipal aggregation program. I know that was implemented here in Beverly. And by purchasing electricity in bulk, we both provided affordable opportunities for residents to get their electricity from the aggregation program as opposed to directly sourced from National Grid, but also a more sustainable option that residents could opt to utilize. And so that was a project that I was proud to play a part of. I also work with the sustainability committee in managing the solar field that we are leasing. It's leased on town land. That allows us to bring credits back in that we utilize to ensure that energy generated from solar is covering our electric needs to some extent at our schools, at our police station, at our fire station, and at town hall.
Mike.
Yes. So one of my top priorities is to make sure that our children and grandchildren have an earth to live on that doesn't become increasingly hostile to them, particularly in a coastal setting like this, where we have so much to worry about with storm surge flooding. So in order to do that, we have to cut emissions. We built a new police station. That's a geothermal electric run ground source heat and cooling system. And that's fantastic because to electrify is to get us away from fossil fuel emissions only if the electricity is clean. So we've been able to host just about 10 megawatts of clean and renewable solar energy on city property since I became mayor. First, the former landfill off of 128 in Centerville, on the way to Centerville, and now the multi-site. You've seen it at the high school, middle school, downtown parking lots, the roofs of City Hall and the Council on Aging. That's a way for us to help kind of walk that walk of clean and renewable energy, powering us. The geothermal will be, the police station will be largely fossil fuel free once we're able to put some solar on the roof and the parking lot there, which is coming.
Great. Brendan.
I'd just like to add, I think it's very important that we remember that these efforts are collective amongst both the mayor, the city council, and other city leaders. And I think it's really important that we're targeting projects that will have a significant impact, but that are also feasible financially. And I see the need for us to really invest in our stormwater infrastructure and in our coastal resiliency infrastructure as two urgent areas with the threat that climate change and rising sea levels pose to Beverly. I think that's an important investment area. And the mayor mentioned geothermal heating systems. I think it's important that we look at those opportunities. But again, we need to be realistic, and the mayor needs to remember that it is a partnership with the city council and residents. And I think the library HVAC proposal was a good example of where something that's well-intentioned can go south. The mayor had initially submitted a proposal that was supposed to be a $4 million retrofit. There was no information provided to the city council for 19 months. And then a project that was $4 million ballooned to $18 million. The city council, which I believe all 9 of us are committed to sustainability, voted against that project because it was poorly managed and because information was not properly communicated. And now we're still dealing with a library with a failing legacy heating system that needs to be addressed. And that's where it's important that not only are our words committed to the goal of sustainability, but that our actions are thoughtful and that the mayor engages with the other important members of city government in trying to achieve these goals.
Mike.
We could have built that project for somewhere between $7 and $8 million in city money versus likely more than that to just replace the gas-fired system. But look, lessons learned by all of us on that. We secured and received grants to evaluate our vulnerabilities at Lynch Park and at Obeah Park. And we've been designing and going through the permitting. The permitting is really exhaustive and challenging with federal and state agencies to get to where we can make the improvements and the repairs at both of those parks to stop erosion and to protect against future floods and protect those valuable resources. So we are working on those. If I'm elected, one of the big things I want to do is acknowledging that the city's own governmental emissions only account for about 4% of the city's as a whole emissions, is to start a Beverly Climate Partnership. And I've already been working with the hospital, with Cummings Center, with Endicott, with some of the larger manufacturing companies and life sciences companies in the community. And if we're able to move forward with that, it's a way for the community at large to work together to cut emissions. And that'll have a much greater impact for us. And it hopefully will be a way to take something local, make it citywide, and then perhaps we can see more regional cooperation. And who knows how much we can accomplish with that, but I think a lot.
We have time for one more?
Yeah, I have one. We talk a lot about the last mile at the Greater Beverly Chamber of Commerce. And one thing I noticed when I first got here 7.5 years ago is there is no platform for the train to stop at the Cummings Center. That is such a no-brainer, in my opinion, for economic development, workforce development. Has there been discussion in the past? And what are your thoughts about trying to make that happen, even if it takes 10 years? And I realize what I'm asking, but I don't understand why there isn't a platform at the Cummings Center that has 600 businesses and 4,000 people.
I think we start with Mike on that one.
And there was 100 years ago. The train modernization program, when I talked about electrifying the rail, it also includes rebuilding the station so that you're not climbing up and down steps, right? And you're not going to have a locomotive pulled system. It'll be much quicker accelerating, decelerating, less time in the station, which will allow the ride time from the depot to North Station to be significantly less, which also allows for more stations to be built. The plan is a station in South Salem to get off at the university, a station in Revere to connect to the Blue Line to go right downtown or to the airport. So these are in the works, and the thought that there could be a station at Cummings Center, I don't know if we could convince state and federal level leadership on that, but it's worth a real conversation and trying to promote. Otherwise, there has to be a really reliable and frequent and easy last half mile from the depot. But maybe it does mean a platform, at Cummings where there used to be one.
Brendan.
That's a great question. I would love to see a stop at the Cummings Center for the MBTA, and I think it's very important that we as local officials advocate for these things, not only for our transportation needs, but a real opportunity to bring a workforce into Beverly that otherwise struggles to find opportunities that could have them at the Cummings Center. So I absolutely think that's something that we should advocate for. Unfortunately, the MBTA is not exactly a stellar organization, and they have struggled to keep up with their infrastructure needs. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't advocate. And one thing in thinking about opportunities to unlock missing pieces of our transportation network, this is something that we've been discussing on the ECDC. I think there's a real opportunity to implement some sort of shuttle system. I know we had tried it, and then the pandemic hit, and that was kind of the end of that. But I think twofold. One, when you think about downtown, one thing that comes to mind is a lack of parking. I actually believe there are opportunities for parking that folks from out of town don't know about. Increased wayfinding would help with that. It's a low-cost measure, and it would show people there's other opportunities to park. One of those opportunities distant from downtown is the Cummings Center. And that's where if we had a shuttle locally or some sort of similar service, that could really unlock a level of last-mile transportation that we don't have in downtown. And I think that would be a big asset to business owners. That's something that I'll be pursuing if I'm elected mayor.
Mike.
Agreed on the wayfinding. We're currently working on trying to get some at least temporary improved wayfinding in place before Thanksgiving. But really, need to partner and are partnering with these groups to do so. So Leslie, your initial question was about the stop at the Cummings Center. So I think I'll just leave it at that. Thanks.
You all set? You have a minute if you want it? Or are you all set? Okay. Well, we're going to move to the closing statements, and we'll start with you, Brendan. You have 2 minutes. Oh, sorry.
What is the status of the empty postcard housing up in North Beverly on Mayoral Street?
What is the status of the empty Coast Guard housing? And I believe Brendan, you get there.
Well, unfortunately, since I'm not the mayor, I can't really give a detailed answer on the status. So I'll let Mayor Cahill do that. But I have been talking with folks about opportunities there. Much of the conversation today is focused on the challenges that we face as a city from the lack of affordable housing. And we talk about the difficulty of building single family homes for developers for whatever reason. Those are existing single family homes. And I think if there's an opportunity for the city to partner with the state to find the resources to take control of those housing units, to rehab them. I know in talking with our veterans agent, Dave Parentchief, he talked a lot about the ability for that to be veteran-specific housing and how that's a goal of his. I think that's an important potential use that we should explore. But if that specific of a designation isn't in the cards, I still think it's really important for the city to look to see if we can find a way in partnering with the state or other developers, for-profit or nonprofit, to at least rehab those existing units and open up some single-family housing that, given the size of the units, would probably be much more affordable than the newer, bigger single-family units coming on. And I think that's a potential boost that wouldn't be as heavy of a lift as rezoning and redeveloping an area would be.
Mike.
So as best I understand, the federal government is now starting to move towards marketing the property. So it is single family zone, and that shouldn't change. I understand there are 16 houses there. Not sure that anybody would be looking to rehab versus tear down, but those decisions are out there in the future. But Councilor's right. There has been talk in the veterans community about the potential for veterans housing there. It's a conversation that should be kind of pursued and thought through, and maybe it is viable there, maybe it isn't. But it is single family zone, and I wouldn't support changing that zoning in that neighborhood.
Okay, now,
Actually, we have one more question from our Executive Director, Beverly Main Street.
Hi, Erin Truex, Beverly Main Streets. A lot of great ideas have been generated today talking about building affordable housing, systems, hotels. That's all well and good, but that is years and years of work. We have small businesses that are struggling right now, and we have small businesses that are going to shutter because of the state of where our country is at. Taxes are going up, prices are going up with landlords. I'd love, as we end this conversation focused on small businesses, if we could really hone in on tangible ways that we can support our small businesses immediately, because a lot of these small businesses are not going to survive to see a hotel or see additional affordable housing.
Brendan.
Thank you for that, Aaron. I think one very tangible way is that the city can continue to support the work that Beverly Main Streets is doing. And I know that there have been conversations in the past. I've spoken with multiple different executive directors about the lack of funding that the city has made available for Beverly Main Streets. Obviously, we have financial constraints. We've been talking about those for much of the day today. But I do want to make sure that we are finding a way, whether it's an increased financial contribution or otherwise, to make sure that we are leveraging the organizations that exist currently to support small businesses like Beverly Main Street. So that's a conversation that I'm looking forward to having with yourself and with others in the small business community. I think that's a very immediate short-term step. And I know in the past, the city had provided grant funding using the ARPA funds that the mayor alluded to. I think finding ways that the city can be a conduit for bringing funding in from other sources, as you mentioned, it's probably less likely to come from the federal government. But if there's a way that the city can be a conduit to bring in state or other private foundation funding specific for the small business community, I think that'd be a great tangible step for us to play a role in making sure we are facilitating resources coming into Beverly directly to small businesses. But to your point, many small businesses are struggling. The jobs that small businesses create come from the initiative of small business owners, not from the city government. But I think we can play a real role in bringing resources to Beverly that small business owners can utilize. And that's what I plan to do as mayor.
Mike.
So we've been doing all that, and with a grant director who focuses in working with our Main Streets and Chamber folks on trying to find those opportunities. Aaron, I worry too, and I know that we have retailers right here downtown who are really counting on this holiday season and in hopes that it's going to tide them through and help them survive. So you and I have been working on trying to get together with some landlords in this, particularly in this neighborhood, and kind of talk through just how landlords and tenants work together through this, right? A smart landlord doesn't want to lose a good tenant who's working real hard and runs a good business. Nobody wants an empty storefront. So we're working to try to make that happen together. One thing, and this is less about this fall and getting through. So let me stay on right now. We need to promote everything we can to make this holiday season the most productive it can be right here in downtown for restaurants and coffee shops, because we know their low time is January, February. For our retailers who absolutely kind of need to make hay with this holiday season. So anything that you all want us to try in the coming 2 months, 3 months, some of it's already in motion and some of it we need to really put our heads together on. Longer term, great news. We became eligible for, as a mini entitlement community, for CDBG funds. It's been a long time. The demographics of the community are such that we now qualify again for a guaranteed roughly $850,000 a year for the next 3 to 4 years from the state, federal CDBG funds. We have to look at how some of that money can be put to helping our local small business community. And happy to get started on that conversation, as we just really got that word recently.
All right, thank you. All set? All right, so now we'll go to closing statements, and we'll start with Brendan.
Thank you, Dave. And again, thanks to our hosts and to each and every one of you for taking the time to be here today. Over the past hour or so, I've shared my vision for Beverly, one rooted in experience, in responsiveness, and in a commitment to our future. I'm running for mayor because I have the skills and the experience to lead effectively from day one. I've managed multi-million-dollar budgets. I've negotiated with unions. I've negotiated other big contracts like Boxford's trash and recycling contract, one that obviously is a big one we'll need to negotiate here in Beverly. And throughout those projects, I have delivered results and I have saved residents money. I've advocated for Beverly's needs at the state level with the Mass Municipal Association. And as a city councilor, I've worked directly with residents locally to make sure that city government is working for them. I believe it's time for a change because Beverly deserves a mayor who communicates clearly, plans ahead, and is responsive to residents. I'll bring transparency to City Hall, and I will ensure that decisions are made with public input because I believe the Beverly residents deserve a say in the big decisions driving city government. I'm deeply invested in Beverly's future. As a public servant, as a volunteer with the Beverly Kiwanis Club, and I see a former President Alex Ray here, and as a soon-to-be parent. I want Beverly to remain a welcoming and inclusive city where everyone can thrive. My blueprint for Beverly has 5 key points: responsive and transparent government, improving our road and sidewalk infrastructure, strengthening our schools, implementing smart financial management practices, and protecting our quality of life. I'll support a well-educated workforce. I will partner with the small business community, and I will make sure that we work together to improve downtown and eliminate inefficiencies in local government while keeping taxes in check and making sure that we balance our budget. On Tuesday, November 4th, I humbly ask for your vote to be Beverly's next mayor. If I'm elected, I will be action-oriented, I will be accessible, and I will be accountable to you. Thank you.
Mike.
David, thanks to you all for being here. Thanks to Leslie and the team at the Chamber for this opportunity. Look, my mom and dad came to Beverly before I was born. My 5 brothers and I all went through the Beverly Public Schools. My whole adult life, I've worked in and around this community. I am completely 100% invested in everything about Beverly. I have been my whole life. In my 12 years as your mayor, we have become one of the most desirable communities in this country to live in, to start, to grow a business in. And I know when I said a few minutes ago that there are local business owners struggling and they're looking to try to get through the holidays and make what they need to continue to survive. I know that some of you in this room as well. And so, we have to be arm in arm on all of these issues. This community needs us to work well together. I think we do. I want to do even more. Beverly itself as a municipal government is in the best financial condition it's been in many decades. We have challenging times coming budgetarily. We know that from the federal and the state level. We have to do everything we can to continue to try to facilitate the type of local investment that we have. We've seen money invested in our community consistently year in and year out. That's been the reason why we've been able to continue to deliver services in a way we have without the type of help we need from other levels of government. So I have deep relationships across this community through all levels of government, and the time is for our state level leaders and representatives to help us with what we need here. What we need in order to make it work financially is we need to continue to go after those grants. I created that grant director position with city council support, over $90 million in 11 years, okay? We've invested over $100 million of federal, state, grant, and local money in our roads and infrastructure. I just last week got a commitment from National Grid for an additional $1.35 million beyond the $3.25 they're already paying us because of all the damage they've done with that high voltage electric line that's been ripping up people's streets for the last few years. I got a commitment from MassDOT for $4 $4 million more a couple weeks ago, so that now we'll build that roundabout on Brimble Ave at Dunham Road to encompass the off and on ramps, Brimble and Dunham. $7.5 million, all state money, after the state gave us $750,000 to design it. So these are the ways in which we'll address our infrastructure needs. These are the ways in which we'll address our operating budget needs, and the ways we'll be in a position to help promote and ensure that our business community has what you need as well. I love this job. I'm grateful that you allow me to do it. I'm asking you to help me to continue to partner with you by voting for me on November 4th to continue as your mayor for the first ever 4-year term in the city's history, because everyone in this community needs the leadership and the champion that we have now in me. I am, as I said, I'm grateful. Everyone in this community needs that championing and that support. And I want to be there for all of you to do that. Thanks.
Thank you. We have a round of applause for the candidate.
I want to thank both of you so much. Appreciate your time this morning. Thank you, David, for always being the professional. I love having an in-house moderator that's a newsie. I love that. I want to thank Chris Height, because I forgot to thank him earlier for all the sound. He got here early. Thank you. That's very helpful. I want to thank BevCam for being here. It will be rebroadcast. I want to thank all of the city councilors and elected officials that came out this morning, that you thought it was important enough to be here, and we're really grateful for that. And this is part of our mission. This is who we are. As a Chamber of Commerce, these are issues, and forums like this are what we should be doing. So thank you again. Have a fabulous day and a very safe weekend, everyone. Thank you.